It's Breaking the News with Des Clark.
I am Des Clark and this is Breaking the News, the show that breaks the week's news and asks four opinionated panellists to put it back together again. Joining me this week is comedian Mark Jennings, and with him stand-up Amy Matthews, and facing off against them is comic and brand new host of the news quiz Andy Zaltzman, and in his team is journalist and broadcaster Aisha Hazarika. In the news this week, ScotRail has put a temporary ban on the consumption of alcohol on trains and stations in Scotland. One passenger was caught with wine recently but had to be let off as it had still been grapes when he started his journey. The largest military investment in 30 years is set to be announced by the Prime Minister, an extra £4 billion a year over the next 4 years. Given the government's track record of handing out huge contracts to suppliers with no previous experience, I for one am looking forward to seeing the fighter jets supplied by odd bins. And psychic Yuri Geller was so excited by the Scotland team's stunning victory over Serbia that he invited all Scots to join him at his private island in the Firth of Forth. He promised visitors a week-long bender, adding those spoons won't know what's hit them. Right, you've met the panel. Let's crack on with round one. This is the Broken News round, where our teams have to guess two major stories of the week that have been mashed together into one single news headline. So Mark and Amy, can you tell me our first story?
Boris Johnson is determined to be the voice of
West Lothian, much of Glasgow in the west, and Stirling.
And showing an admirable determination to keep digging, the Prime Minister
Will move to
Scotland
come Friday.
The previous Prime Minister, Theresa May,
Described the news as devastating.
Amy, any thoughts as to what our first story might be?
I think it's that there are more areas going into Tier 4 in West Scotland.
It is the news that now over 2 million people are to be placed under Scotland's toughest COVID lockdown restrictions, which are enforced from this weekend onwards. The move will see level 4 rules imposed in 11 council areas across western and central Scotland, including Glasgow. It will mean non-essential shops, pubs, restaurants and gyms will have to close, although schools will still be open. The level 4 restrictions will remain in place until the 11th of December. So just to clarify, as per Nicola Sturgeon's new rules restricting movement, Dundee is set at Tier 3, Glasgow at Tier 4, and Margaret Ferrier's leg tag has been set to stun. Keep an eye on her. So what do you think, Amy? Are you surprised about this? There's some areas in Scotland with the tier system going back into an effective lockdown.
At the end of the day, although I feel really sorry for small businesses and hospitality, etc., but I have to be brutally honest, like it just isn't going to make a jot of difference to my life at the moment because I'm not doing anything. So when the news was announced that Glasgow is pretty much back in full lockdown, my thoughts were the same as they are when I hear that Celtic are playing Rangers. You know, it's a big deal for Glasgow. I know a lot of young men will be taking to Facebook to talk about their freedom, but ultimately my life goes on unchanged.
That's a fair analogy, that is. Mark, what about it then? Obviously a lot of areas in Scotland now hitting Tier 4 and into lockdown. Are we surprised by this?
Well, it's weird that there's neighbouring areas that are in different tiers. So people in Lothian are living under separate conditions with no travel allowed between east and west like it's pre-90s Berlin. The only way they're going to know if the restrictions have been lifted or not is when David Hasselhoff turns up at the Edinburgh City bypass.
Aisha, we've seen various lockdowns and circuit breakers. Now for Scotland, we've got until the 11th of December to try and bring that R number down. Are you surprised that we're back here in lockdown?
Well, no, because like everybody is really struggling. But I do like the fact that England's got 4 tiers and Scotland's got 5 tiers because, of course, Nicola had to do one better than Boris Johnson, and tier 5's made entirely of Dundee cake, which I love.
Schools remaining open, that's a big mistake. Scotland, if we've learned nothing else from this crisis and all the other crises and thinking about the future of the planet, is that teaching children is wrong. It's only going to upset them. The less they know about the world, the less angry they are going to be with our generation.
And Aisha, what do you think? Obviously, it does seem to be this gamble that's slightly been taken across in various ways, the 4 nations, to try and do a harsh lockdown now so that we ease it up over Christmas. Do you think all this will will work and will be worth it?
It's really difficult to tell because, Christmas is just one, religious festival, and the Prime Minister basically cancelled Eid quite recently, which many of us Muslims were annoyed about. But it is weird being a Christmas for people like me because being Muslim, my family feels we shouldn't celebrate Christmas, but because we're Indian, we feel like we've got to have the biggest tree. So it's like quite a difficult, it's a hard trade-off for us.
But here's a question for you, Mark. What are your lockdown goals this time around?
I'm going to get into conspiracy theories. Because, I'm not able to go anywhere else. I might as well take a trip down a few rabbit holes.
I don't know about anyone else, but I've just really lowered the bar. Lockdown 1, I was like, finish the script I've been working on, learn British Sign Language, do an Open University course, keep a journal. Now it's more like, finish watching The American Office, but also absolutely no pressure if not.
Aisha, what about yourself? Have you set any goals and things to achieve during this lockdown?
I think for me it's to grow a full beard because I feel that with the lack of grooming that's been going on, I've got a sort of Tom Selleck bordering on goatee, but I think I could go full ZZ Top by the time I'm allowed out, which is good.
What are your lockdown goals this time around?
Paganism. I think in these times of cosmic uncertainty, we need to get back to basics and exorcisms as well. We've found actually over the last few months it's a great way to bond as a family unit to do a few good exorcisms.
I love the fact, Andy, that maybe some family will try and at one point Google lockdown exorcising, think they're getting Joe Wicks, and it'll be you just chanting.
If you play Joe Wicks' videos backwards, then you see what he's really about.
Tougher COVID restrictions in Scotland is the right answer. Mark and Amy, well done. You get 2 points for that. Aisha, any clues as to what our second story might be?
I think this is around the Prime Minister Boris Johnson's comments on devolution. He was on a Zoom call with some Tory Northern MPs, and he said that devolution had been a really big disaster, and I imagine that was probably quite a stressful Zoom call for the Prime Minister because everybody probably said to him, Prime Minister, you're breaking up, and he would panic and start muttering something about the strength of the Union before singing Rule Britannia.
Yeah, it is the news that Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, has come under fire for reportedly telling a virtual meeting of Conservative MPs that devolution had been a disaster in Scotland. Mr Johnson also reportedly described it as predecessor Tony Blair's biggest mistake. Upon hearing this news, that the Prime Minister had called devolution his biggest mistake, Tony Blair replied enthusiastically, yep, I'll take that. Definitely was. Nothing else I can think of that might have been an error during my time in office.
I mean, he's claiming a bit of a slip of the tongue. And we've all had slips of the tongue, clearly. But unlike Boris Johnson, they usually only go on for, a phrase or a sentence, not 56 years unbroken. So I guess that's, we all make mistakes.
Mark, what about this? Boris Johnson has obviously said these comments. There's been some clarification on it. What do you think was the point the Prime Minister was trying to make?
Well, Boris, he's accusing the SNP of trying to divide the UK by pushing for a referendum, which is a bit rich coming from the guy who was the face of the Leave campaign.
Getting lectured by Boris Johnson about facilitating the rise of separatism and nationalism is like being lectured by Stephen Hendry about playing too much snooker in your 20s.
But also the other thing that I saw, there was a mysterious Downing Street source said that devolution is great, but not when used by separatists and nationalists to break up the UK, which has got a real whiff of feminism is great for the T-shirts or Beyonce songs, but not to gain any meaningful power of any kind. It's the same kind of
same
kind of
energy.
vibe.
That. Yeah, I can feel that. Aisha, here's a question for you. He claims that devolution was Tony Blair's biggest mistake. Was it?
Gosh, that's a tough one, isn't it? Because there's quite a few. There was that comic relief sketch that was pretty bad. I think he's kind of overdone it on the tanning bed. Des, you might know something about that. And maybe there's one other wee thing. I was kind of escaping this on the tip of my tongue.
I mean, clearly we've been sort of hinting. I think he made a big mistake in Iraq. Not so much in, doing it in itself, although that obviously that I do believe was a mistake. I think the bigger mistake was not then leading the troops into battle on a horse. I think that would have shown that he really meant it.
It is mad though, isn't it? Like, it just shows you like what our attitudes about the Iraq War are now. That like the one country that Boris is criticising Tony Blair for trying to bring democracy to is Scotland.
It'll never work.
I think Tony Blair's biggest mistake was missing the opportunity to play Michael Sheen in a film. But also, I think I also think he really missed the boat not doing, like, you know, the Hugh Grant dance from Love Actually when he was playing the Prime Minister.
Yeah.
If he'd have done that after he announced the war, people might still like him. Like, it's amazing how much the public can forgive you if you dance. Like, ask Ed Balls. Like, one little Gangnam Style and the MP's expensive scandals, just, you know, a distant memory.
Andy, what about you? Is there anything you can think of, the one thing you've said that you wish you hadn't?
One would be, sure, Rabbi, I'm only 8 days old, but if you want to lop it off, you lop it off.
Oh dear. Mark, what about yourself then? What is the one thing, Mark, that you have said that you wish you hadn't?
I really regret, without thinking, complaining to my mate that my phone had died during his dad's funeral. It's just like, oh no, there's nothing worse. Oh, sorry, mate.
Boris Johnson said the SNP, which has been in power since 2007, had been pretty useless on domestic Scottish issues and had become obsessed with demands for referendums. The SNP said they vehemently disagreed and demanded a referendum to decide who was right. Well done to Andy and Aisha. You get 2 points for that. It was the mashup of new COVID restrictions and the reaction to the Prime Minister's comments about devolution in Scotland. And at the end of the round, the teams are on 2 points apiece. Now, so much of our news is about public opinion, and this week we spoke to comedian Susan Riddle and star of Still Game, Mark Cox. So, Andy and Aisha, what story do you think Susan is on about here?
I can't even imagine a time where you used to wait, but like Friends would leave it on a cliffhanger on a Thursday night and you'd be talking about it all week. I probably spent more time doing this than I have forming real relationships and friendships. Actually, I learned my lesson with this with The Sopranos. I nearly ended up with gout because every time Tony would eat like parma ham and salami, I'd be down at the fridge at 3 a.m. eating packets of cold meat.
We're all binge watching things, and this is quite bad for our health.
Viewers no longer have the self-control that was forced on us by linear television. Heavy screen time users averaged 17.5 hours of screen use per day. They also had the least healthy dietary patterns compared to moderate and light users. Hey, Andy, does this describe you? Are you someone that binge watches a box set?
Well, I don't like you trying to label me like that, Des. You know, I sometimes am, and I sometimes am not. You know, it's a fluid scale, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Whether or not you binge watch, and you know, stop trying to divide the world into people who binge watch box sets and people who don't. There's not enough division as it is. We need to be reaching out, those in the binge watching community and those who are not in the binge. They've got to learn to get along. Have we learned nothing?
Mark, what about yourself? Are you a binge watcher? Do you get tied into a box set?
Yeah, and do you know, I hate that, like, we're never able to binge anything that's actually good for us. Like, no one's ever binge eating salad or binge drinking water. And, like, you never hear anyone just going like, oh, I've just binge read War and Peace, got through all of it in a week, and when I finished it, I just started it again from the beginning.
Amy, what about you? We're all trying. The scientists tell us we're watching telly and watching our screens too much. What would you do to get the nation away from our screens?
Well, I actually had this discussion with my partner during the first lockdown. We said, you know, we need to do something that's going to be, you know, away from a screen, something analog. So we thought we'd try yoga. There are loads of like YouTube tutorials these days. And so we started it. And I think my partner is the first person to find yoga stressful because Alison was guiding it. As the person was guiding it, she was saying, you know, tree pose into downward dog, into sitting pose, into he said, to quote, it's like being at an auction and it was too stressful to keep up.
Well done for getting binge watching right. Yes, binge watching, it's now said, has turned us into a nation of couch potatoes. A couch potato, obviously, is someone that takes little or no exercise and watches a lot of TV, except in Newton Mearns, where couch potatoes are what they call bags of crisps. True story. Yes. Well done. Box set binging is the correct answer. 2 points go to Andy and Aisha. Now to you, Mark and Amy. What do you think Mark Cox is talking about here?
I'm not entirely sure I welcome earliness in this situation. I think some people in a bit have gone right to town and they've went online. As much as I'm quite for it and all that, it has to be at the right time. You need to keep within the parameters.
I believe this is a story about people kind of celebrating Christmas earlier than ever and like streaming Christmas songs and looking up Christmas recipes and things like that.
It's exactly right. Well done, Mark. It is the news that people in the UK are getting into the festive spirit earlier than ever, according to the music we're listening to. So, for example, Mariah Carey's festive hit All I Want for Christmas Is You returned to Spotify's top 40 last Sunday, a full 2 weeks earlier than it had done 3 years ago. Are you a fan of the Christmas songs?
I think a lot of Christmas songs don't really fit in now with the realities of living through the coronavirus. Like, I wish it could be Christmas every day. Like, I'm spending every day now kicking about the house in my pyjamas, eating chocolate and playing computer games. It basically is Christmas every day already.
Amy, what about this? Obviously, it seems like we're really wanting Christmas to come sooner. You a fan of the Christmas music?
Yeah, I like it much more now that the X Factor doesn't dominate the charts as much. There was a phase, I feel, through sort of the 2000s where it was just always a randomer from Hull doing a Biffy Clyro cover or something, and it was such a dark time.
I'm not that well up with the Bible, in particular the New Testament, or as those of us on the Jewish end of the seesaw describe it, the unnecessary and disappointing sequel. But it's I don't recall there being a bit where it says that God gave his only son so that we might listen to music that for the other 11 months of the year we would smash over our knees in fury if we heard it.
What about you, Aisha? Are you a fan of Christmas music?
Yeah, I do quite like a wee Christmas tune, but I am panicked about how I'm going to do my Christmas shopping because nothing's open at the moment and it's only sort of non-essential shops. So I think we're all going to be doing our Christmas shopping in the middle aisle of Aldi, which means that you're just going to get the most random selection of presents, like a canoe and like an angle grinder or something like that.
Nothing says Christmas like a canoe. You're absolutely right. But here's the question:
the B-side of Mariah Carey.
It was, yeah.
I do think this year's advent calendars are going to feel quite sarcastic, aren't they? So, do you know the most 2020 thing would be to get one of those advent calendars that don't have chocolate in, they're just pictures. Oh. What are those? That's like organising a surprise dinner party for someone, then when they open the door, it's just a room full of watercolours of all their favourite food.
What I am looking forward to, though, is the Queen's speech this year, which I think could be one of her greatest. I think it's basically just going to be her sitting in an armchair, just going, well, that was... and slugging gin out of a bottle.
Well done to our teams. An early Christmas spirit is the correct answer. And 2 points go to Mark and Amy. You're tuned to a socially distant Breaking the News on BBC Radio Scotland with me, Des Clark. Now, this round is all about who's in the news. I'll play you a clip of a mystery person. All you have to do is tell me who it is. So, Mark and Amy, you're first this time. Who is this?
I wouldn't characterize myself as an entrepreneur. I would characterize myself as someone who has found a couple of different things in life that I believed in with every cell in my body, and this is one of them.
Is it Ryan Reynolds?
Yes, this is the bizarre story that Hollywood star Ryan Reynolds, along with his other celeb mate Rob McElhenney, are to be the new owners of National League football club Wrexham. Now, while it may be unusual for Hollywood superstars to put their money into British football, Ryan Reynolds has said that he was inspired by Lin-Manuel Miranda, who, of course, had a massive success with Hamilton. So here we are, Amy, in a year of bizarre stories. What do we think about these Hollywood stars getting involved in a Welsh football team?
I'll be honest, I won't be interested until one's bought by RuPaul, because until the penalty shootout, has been sort of renamed the finale, and instead of a red card, it will just be a neon sign saying "sachet away." Not until then am I interested at all.
I think Ryan Reynolds is quite interesting because he's quite an entrepreneur, and he also invested in Tinder and something called Aviation Gin, which is exactly what I would do if I ever split up with Scarlett Johansson as well.
What do you think that this Hollywood involvement will mean for that town and that club?
Well, apparently one of the big things that they're going to do is make a documentary about the club and stuff, which is quite common now in football. And it is weird that football teams now need to view their results in terms of how it will fit into the story arc of a Netflix series. We're on a poor run of form right now, but we're all right as long as we can put a string of good results together in time for the season finale.
Next time on East Stirling, All or Nothing. Aisha, I don't know if you've been to Wrexham or done any gigs or whatever there, but what do you think that this Hollywood investment would mean for that town?
I think what they haven't quite appreciated is that Wrexham plays in England's 5th tier, which means they have to play in their own garden with people from their own family. So I don't think that they quite thought this through.
I once went to a game at Wrexham. Many years ago, I went to see Gillingham play Wrexham, and I took my my girlfriend along. By the end, it was freezing fog, and we couldn't see the other end of the pitch, and it was a 0-0 draw. But the relationship survived that, and as the old saying goes, if you can survive a 0-0 draw in freezing fog at Wrexham, you can survive anything. And 25 years later, we're still together.
What do you think Hollywood celebs should invest in Scotland?
They should have the surgeon who did Kim Kardashian's nose job to Sita Greyfriars Bobby, because the poor wee thing, honestly, he looks like he's been doing cocaine off of C-3PO. It's so sad, and he just needs his little nose put back.
Andy, what about yourself then? What should they invest in?
I'd like to see some of America's top celebrities put £500 million into Inverary Shinty Club, just to see what happens. It's time Shinty got some of the big bucks.
At one stage, the actor Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was interested in investing in Aloha until he discovered that they weren't actually Hawaiian. Well done. 2 points to Mark and Amy. That was, of course, Ryan Reynolds. Right, Andy and Aisha, it's your turn now. Who is this and why are they in the news?
In an emergency, I'd eat tripe, but I'd rather not. But I'm afraid I can't genuinely think of a food I don't like eating.
Nigella
Lawson is the right answer.
She's got this new show on the BBC which is called Cook, Eat and Repeat, and she's done some recipes that have caused some controversy. And on Monday night, she basically schooled us on how to butter toast. and apparently you have to butter it once and let all the buttery goodness seep in, and then you have to butter it again, and then you sprinkle a wee bit of salt on it, and that is how you eat your toast.
Andy, is there a right or wrong way to make toast?
I like to get a bit medieval on it when I'm toasting bread, and whilst my bread is in the toaster, I shout, "Repent, heretic, devil slice, repent!" And I feel it just makes it feel a little tastier. Also, I don't know with Nigella Lawson, after buttering your toast twice and sprinkling salt on it, you then have to put any spare butter on the defibrillator you're going to need after your breakfast heart attack.
It does seem that way. So I don't know if you're much of a cook, Mark, but this idea, there's a right and wrong way to do toast, and Nigella's telling us how it should be done. What did you make of that?
Here's my strategy for toast, right? What you do is you need to take the toast out of the toaster as soon as it pops, because if you leave it too long, I don't know if this is just my toaster, but if you leave the toast in the toaster too long, it gets hard, as if the toast is merging with the metal. So you need to take it out of the metal as soon as it pops, put it on a plate.
What?
Is that? Do you not do that? Is that?
I don't think that. Well, yeah, no, we do take it out of the toaster when it's still warm and when it pops, but I've never had the bread actually merge with the metal as some sort of robotic yeast hybrid.
Mark, I'm sorry that it's taken a radio satirical panel show to do this, but you need a new toaster.
You sure it's not a welder?
We just had some breaking news. Boris Johnson has said that taking the toast out too early was Tony Blair's biggest mistake. Why do you think Nigella has this army of fans and that she's endured as one of those cooks that still has series being made many years after her first one?
I find her shows really comforting to watch. They're very beautifully made, even though I've got no chance of actually ever making. So it's a bit like, but show Bullseye, like, here's what you could have won. Like, I'm watching her make all this stuff as I lie on the sofa eating a packet of, like, pickled onion Monster Munch. Like, that is the disconnect.
Nigella left viewers baffled after sharing her 2-stage method for buttering toast, potentially increasing to 4 stages if the measures fail to contain the spread. Well done. Right answer. Nigella Lawson is correct, and 2 points go to Andy and Aisha. And it's time now for our final quickfire round, which is all about deciphering the numbers in the news. I will read out a headline. All the teams have to do is fill in the blanks. So get ready, teams. When we run out of time, you'll hear this.
I'm bloody miserable, actually.
That was Alwyn Greenwood, who was interviewed by ITV Granada News, just reflecting the nation for the whole of 2020. Right, let's go, teams. 4 in 10 people in the UK are guilty of what?
Fancying Margaret Thatcher in The Crown.
4 in 10 people in the UK are guilty of what?
Of loving the first degree.
Oh. In a week of bringing back retro songs, there's another beauty. I can tell you.
If 4 out of 10 people are guilty of loving the first degree, then the statistical chances of all 3 members of Bananarama being guilty is only 6.4%. That's what a remarkable song it is.
4 in 10 people in the UK are guilty of keeping money secrets from their loved ones. 3 what have been causing havoc in the Atlantic?
Men and a baby.
I can tell you that 3 rogue orcas have been attacking boats and causing havoc in the Atlantic. Killer whales on the loose.
I'm bloody miserable, actually.
That's it. There is our klaxon. Alwyn has greenwooded. And at the end of the quiz, our winners this week are Andy Zaltzman and Aisha Hazarika. Yay! And commiserations to Mark Jennings and Amy Matthews. Woo! Yeah. Woo! And we'll leave you with the breaking news. Breaking news. Just in, a Russian university student from a remote Siberian village has described how he has to climb a 26-foot high tree in order to get an internet connection to do his online learning. The student said he didn't mind the climb, but it was a bit of a pain lugging his desk and printer with him. South Korea has tested an air taxi over its capital, Seoul, this week. The first journey was with a bag of rice. The pilot now has to work out how to get a chicken and a fox to the other side of the city when he can only carry one at a time. And country music star Dolly Parton has said she feels very honoured and proud to have given money to research into one of the most promising COVID-19 vaccines that she stated should be available to everyone, except that home wrecker Jolene. The news is now broken. I've been Des Clark. Goodbye!
Excuse me, sir. Sorry to bother you. Can we just ask you how happy you're feeling right now?
I'm bloody miserable, actually. Pubs are shut. What do you expect?